Hey everyone. So recently there's been a lot of news about a spyware called Pegasus that's made by a group in Israel called NSO Group. There have been investigative reports coming out, such as the one by the Guardian, and also this one by a group called Forbidden Stories, showing that this has been used to target journalists, politicians, etc., etc. And the thing about Pegasus is that it can gather data, it can record video from the phone, activate the microphone, and take screenshots, exfil all of the data, messages, emails, etc. And it'll do all of this without like the person who owns the phone even knowing what happened. They don't even need to click a link or anything. And so in this little video, I just wanted to show how to use some software that was written by Amnesty International Tech and check your own phone and see if there are traces of Pegasus on it or not. So this is the repo that we're going to be using. It's called MVT, Mobile Verification Toolkit, and it seems to be a pretty hot project. So the first commit was just 10 days ago, but it already has more than 4,000 stars on GitHub. And it also has documentation here, and these are the steps that we're going to follow. And so in this video, we're just going to go through all of these steps. I have an iPhone, so we're going to do this for iOS. And at a high level, what this does is it takes a backup of your phone, kind of like if you have an iPhone when you back up to iTunes, and you'll store that on your computer. Normally it's encrypted. And so we're going to use the software to decrypt it, and then we're going to look through all of the data in the backup and see if there's anything that's related to what's known to be part of Pegasus. And so there's some lists of like domains or URLs that are associated with Pegasus. And so like one thing that we can do is look through the data transfer logs on the phone and see if there's any data transfer that's being sent to a domain that's owned by Pegasus. And that could be one indicator that like Pegasus is on your phone and stealing data, and taking it away, sending it to some other URL. And so yeah, we'll just go through and start following these steps. So here I've just opened up a terminal and I've got the introduction and the documentation on the left. So I'm going to do this with my iPhone. So what we're going to do is we're going to take my encrypted iOS backup, decrypt it, parse the records from system logs, apps, databases, etc. And then we're going to later on go through those records and compare them to this provided list of malicious indicators. And then at the end, we'll have a look at the timeline and see if there's anything that jumps out. So getting into installation, I'm doing this on my Mac. So I'll just copy this command to brew install. And if you don't have brew already installed, you can find a way to install it pretty quickly. I would just have to install brew. Yeah, right here. If you would just copy this and paste it into your terminal, that's how you would install it. It would probably take several minutes to run, but I already have that installed. So I'll just go ahead and run brew install. And in fact, I already have Python 3 and libusb installed. So both of these are going to say that they're already there. And then next, I'm going to update my path by just pasting that into my terminal. And then I'm going to pip install mvt, copy and paste. And so I have done this before, so it didn't take so long. It might take a few minutes if you're doing this for the first time. And that's it for installation. So we'll go to the next one. And actually, we don't need to use Docker because I'm just going to do this on my local machine. But yeah, let's just jump into the iOS docs. And so here, we're only going to do the iTunes backup. We're not going to do a file system dump because for that, you need to jailbreak the device, which I really don't want to do to my iPhone. But if you're interested in doing it, there are definitely ways to do it. You can read more in this documentation. So we'll just keep going. And yes, so now we want to use this libimobiledevice. And so again, that's a homebrew installation. So just copy, paste that in there. And I did this before, so I already have it in there. And then I've also I've plugged my iPhone into my Mac. And so we can test and see if these commands have worked by running ideviceinfo and expecting it to dump out a bunch of info about my device. So I'm not actually going to run this command on the screen because it'll dump out a bunch of info about my personal device. But you can trust me that it worked for me. So the next step for us to do is to begin the backup. And I don't want to use iTunes because I feel like iTunes is kind of hard to use for backups, so I'd rather just do it in the command line. So first thing that we need to do is make sure that backup encryption is enabled. So I'll just copy this command. It needs this -i. And my device already has backup encryption enabled. So if you don't have it enabled already, you should just Google and set up how to do that. And then once that's taken care of, we can start to do the backup. So we'll just copy this, and it runs iDevice backup to backup, full backup, and the path for the backup. So let's just put it at backup-encrypted. And then, yeah, let's just let this run. Backup encrypted does not exist. Let's make it backup encrypted. Cool. So now it'll start going through this. It'll probably take a while. I would leave it, maybe give it an hour, leave your phone plugged in also, and then make sure your computer is plugged into the power source. Yeah, I'll just let this run. It'll probably take a while, and I'll start sharing my screen again once it's finished. All right, so now my backup has finished. It's safe to unplug my phone from the computer. And let's just have a look at what the files are in there. So we've got a bunch of these random looking files, some directories, and this is all encrypted. So next we have to decrypt it. So here are the steps to decrypt it. So let's just run mvt-ios decrypt-backup. And then we want something like this. So -p, and this is the password used to encrypt your iPhone. So not mine. And then we want the output path to where this will go when it's decrypted. So we'll call it backup-decrypted folder. And currently the path to backup is backup-encrypted. So we can just run this. When I run this, it'll start like this. For me, it's going to fail because that's not my real password. But again, once you do this, you can just let it run for a while. One thing, like another error that you may run into, is if this backup decrypted folder doesn't exist, you may need to run like make directory backup decrypted. So I already have it, it exists for me. But yes, I would just give this some time to run. And then once this is decrypted, then we can start to check the logs. Cool, so now my decryption process has finished. We can see I have my backup decrypted folder right here. And so the next step is to run the check backup command. And so the way that the check backup works is it's going to go through the logs and see if there's anything in the logs that is potentially connected to Pegasus somehow. And the thing that we need to do is pass in a file that keeps track of what may be related to Pegasus, and that's kind of the basis for comparison in this check backup command. And so first we need to go get a sticks2 file. So here at the bottom of the documentation, it talks about using this --iocs argument. And so we're just going to get the sticks file here from this investigations repo. And they've got different things like domains potentially related to Pegasus, lots of stuff, process names. And this is all kind of like bundled into a sticks file. So we need to download this sticks file. And the way we do that is we're in GitHub, we'll click these three dots and hit download. And then we can just grab this URL and wget that. So now we have this pegasus.sticks file, and we can use that to run the check backup command. So the way we'll do that is mvt-ios check backup, and we'll put it in a folder called output. So let's just make our output folder, mkdir output. And then our decrypted backup lives at the path backup-decrypted, and then we need the iocs argument. That will be pegasus.sticks. And then we can let this run. And same deal, this will take a while to run. So yeah, I'll just restart the recording once this is finished for me. So when I ran this and it finished, there were a bunch of info statements, but I also noticed 2 lines that said warning in red. One says found a known suspicious file. The other said found a known malicious file. So that's definitely interesting. We can see that it went through WhatsApp messages and extracted 2746 links. So now just to look back at the documentation, it says any matches will be highlighted in the terminal output as well as saved in an output folder using a _detected suffix. So here we have our output. So let's cd into output and see what's in here. And so this has JSON files that sort of log all of the records from each of these different modules. And you notice a couple of them, like manifest detected.json, timeline detected.json, or .csv indicates that there was some sort of match between the Pegasus sticks file and the logs from my device. So now we've done that. We don't need to dump the file system, but if you're super curious, you can. And this is what we want to look at. What are the records extracted? And so this kind of just gives us an overview of what each of these files will indicate. So here's cache files.json. So here, do I have a cache files.json? No, I don't. Let's see what I do have. Chrome favicon.json. So this extracts records from a SQLite database located somewhere in my device, maps favicon URLs and the visited URLs with load of them. So let's just see Chrome. Okay, so here's a bunch of things that I've, sites that I've visited. Yeah, that's kind of what like these files look like. The detected one is probably what we want to look at because, yeah, it seems weird. So manifest detected.json. And here it says the path is to this crash reporter.plist. And I don't really know what that means. Well, I guess let's take another look. It says it was created 2014, 224 modified, then and the status was changed 2017, 1016. So right off the bat, that kind of strikes me as strange because I didn't have my phone in 2014. I have an iPhone 8, which didn't come out until like late 2017, I think. So this, yeah, I don't really think it means anything. This is probably around the date that I actually got the phone. And so if the file wasn't modified, but the status changed, perhaps that was me like activating the phone, something like that. But I'm not sure. Let's have a look at the timeline and see if there's anything weird in there. And so no, actually this kind of looks somewhere like 2014. I think I can just disregard that because that was well before the phone was released in 2017. It showed that there was something happening with that crash reporter.plist file. And so I think like in my particular case, that doesn't really mean anything, but I was reading a bit about these, like what this crash reporter plist file is used for. And it's documented at the Amnesty International site. I'll post a link to this page, but let's just see what it does. So this person's phone had Pegasus installed, and then The crash report plist file was written likely to disable reporting of crash logs back to Apple. So yeah, I guess that makes sense. If your phone is infected and things aren't happening as supposed to, you don't want Apple to be getting notifications like, hey, this person's phone is doing weird things. And so that seems to be the use of modifying or writing a new crash reporter.plist file if your phone is infected with spyware. But because of like the history and the time at which I actually got the phone, I don't think that's related to what I did. And so even though it had that exciting warning that there's a potentially malicious file, I don't think there's anything special going on with my phone. I'd say that that's just a false positive, and I don't think it's worth investigating more because, as you see, like with this example, there are several events, processes, favicons being recorded, and for me, the only one that I saw was this crash reporter.plist file and none of the other ones, so I don't think that indicates any sort of spyware installation. And so with that, I'll end this video. But I did just want to say that this is a super cool project. Thank you to the people who put together MVP and also to those who work for Amnesty International for doing this reporting and creating this tech. Also to the people at The Guardian and Forbidden Stories for investigating. And I think this is super interesting. All of the code is here, so you could just like look through and see actually what's happening under the hood. If you're, say, you want to know how it's reading your file system, so then you can just like read through the phone, see what it does, read through the code, see what it does. So yeah, super cool. Some also interesting guides about quick forensics that some of the people involved in this project put together, which are super interesting reads. So if you're curious, I definitely recommend checking those out. And yeah, with that, that's all I had. I hope that this was an interesting video, and now you're able to check your own phone. If you give it a try and have any questions or get stuck or errors or whatever, just post in the comments and I'll try to respond, or other people could respond. Yeah, I hope you like this video. Thanks for checking it out.